Urban Meyer said this team's going to go 10-2. Now, that was brought to my attention by, I believe, a Michigan fan who said that he predicted a loss to Michigan. I went back and looked at it. I did not hear, nor did I listen to everything that came out of his mouth. I glanced at an article. It didn't appear as though he was specifying the losses here. So that might have been a bit misconstrued as expected. However, I don't see Urban Meyer as the kind of guy that wants to make predictions in April about the football season, but being in the podcasting world now, he's probably been encouraged to say, people are going to want to hear what your prediction is on this team.
Well, if you predict them to go 10-2, that's what they did last year. So that's a safe prediction. It's like, well, there's nothing wrong with it. You can go 10-2, win a national title. I mean, why get after me? But when you look at the schedule, at Illinois is going to be interesting. Obviously, the start with the Texas, you get that one at home. At Wisconsin is, as we know, always interesting, and of course at Michigan. I think there's certainly potential there for 2 losses in those.
Long trip to Washington. I mean, granted, it's not the same Washington that played for the national championship 2 years ago. They really took a big step back last season, but I think that coach Jed is a pretty good football coach, and eventually will have a team. I think Ohio University is interesting in there. Not that that's a potential stumble at all, but Ohio University is going to play Ohio State in Columbus, and they are hosting West Virginia in Athens this year. And I've got friends who are West Virginia fans, and I've been to a couple games down there at West Virginia in Morgantown, and it really is a great party. You want to talk about the ultimate party fan base coming to the ultimate party city with Athens, Ohio, with all the bars and everything that's going to happen down there. That should be electric on whatever that says Saturday. Well, that's the OSU game. I think it's the week before they play West Virginia or the week after, but that is going to be, if OSU is playing Grambling or they're off that following week, that might be a fun one to go down to Athens and enjoy. And OU has knocked off some teams. Iowa State, they played there a few years ago and beat them. So, it's not like West Virginia has been it's the week before on Saturday, September the 6th. Yeah. So, my goodness, they're opening the season at Rutgers. So they're getting 3 pretty good paydays there, although West Virginia, the Peden Stadium probably only seats 25,000, 30,000 people, and you can only jack up the ticket prices so far, but that'll be a tough ticket for West Virginia fans to try and get in there to see their team play. There'll probably be many more of them in the campers and in the tailgate lots than actually get to go inside the stadium down there. But that's a fun one. If you're looking for somewhere to go the week before, go down to Athens and check out that scene beginning Thursday night. That's going to be off the hook. So.
Well, Steve, the greater thing about it is because they play Rutgers on the Thursday before, they've got 2 extra days of drinking to prepare. So this is no big noon kickoff for them. They've got not basically 8 or 9 days to get liquored up for this one.
If you believe the message boards, it sounds like Ross Bjork is doing everything in his power to try and convince Fox to either put the Texas game at night or just not select it and let NBC take it, perhaps for a night game, which there'd have to be some real horse trading involved to permit somebody else to have that game, because obviously it's a rematch from the semifinals this past year, and 2 of the biggest brand names in the sport. So we'll see if Ross is successful in his lobbying effort, if there even is one. At Washington, we talked about Minnesota at home. Don't sleep on the Gophers. They beat Ohio State and Columbus, once every 30, 40 years. At Illinois, interesting. At Wisconsin, a week later is interesting. That's like going from I'd say the frying pan to the fire, but, I don't think that Illinois is necessarily the frying pan. Penn State at home, Obviously, Penn State is still searching for that win over Ohio State. Those next three shouldn't matter too much. Just throw the helmets out on the field. And, that last one is the big one. Ryan Day's, at some point wants to get that monkey off of his back, and no better time to do it than this year, when it means potentially you'd be locking up a spot in the Big Ten championship game potentially, for whatever that's worth, and certainly helping your playoff seed if you can win that game. So yeah, it's going to be a fun year, I think. Is there anybody from the Big Ten that we think is going to be really good that they're missing? USC, Nebraska, I don't
Oregon.
know.
I mean,
Oregon. Yeah, Oregon goes without saying.
They're always going to have talent. I'm interested to see what Indiana does this year because now you've got to do it again. But my question for you guys is, what percentage chance, 0 to 100%, do you guys think that Bryce Underwood is starting that Ohio State game?
85.
Yeah, I would say 70 to 80. Yeah. I mean,
is that because he's lost the job, or because he's finally taken the job? Like, is it something where, he has it earlier in the season, and then, where are the doubts? I guess why not 100? Is it just because he's a freshman?
I thought that, of course, they had the setup of Mikey Keene coming in from Fresno State, but I hear bad things about his health, and that Bryce Underwood is so far off the charts that maybe he starts game one. Now we see that they're interested in Brendan Sullivan, the former Iowa Northwestern quarterback, to bring him in and have him possibly be the bridge.
Did he play against Ohio State in that night game way back in 2019 or something? I mean, I don't know. Maybe he didn't. I don't know.
He's moved around so much that.
Good God, he's been there forever. Yeah, I don't know what to make of it. I kind of got a mixed reads on how Underwood did. Obviously, I didn't see it, and I guess a tape of it is supposed to be on Big Ten Network this weekend, some edited version of it. I know he threw a flea flicker for a 90-yard touchdown, but, whoop-de-doo. The situation was the same as Ohio State. They didn't do any blitzing, or they just stayed in the base defense for their, quote, spring game. And they made it sound like he just made the throws that were available and, had a decent day, but, nothing to get, too overly excited about. So consistency is going to be the issue. I mean, it's just hard for a true freshman. I mean, the length of this season is going to be so difficult, and to just continue to bring it day after day, week after week, it's hard for a freshman to do that. So to me, they'll probably lose a couple games because of him, but, he's so good potentially that maybe he'll win one that they weren't supposed to win just because he makes some, incredible throw or incredible play. So you kind of walk on a tightrope with him this year, and, we'll see if he lives up to the hype.
They also statistically have the worst schedule in the Big Ten.
Well, after last season with the parity scheduling and everything, you got to throw him a bone. I mean, God, that was a terrible year. I mean, they get the first place team from the AFC West and the last place team from the AFC West. I mean, it's you gotta balance it out there a little bit. To me, and I did a draft last year of how the TV thing would turn out. I haven't done it this year, but if the Big Ten is not doing anything more than providing 3 quality matchups every week, then they really are screwing over their TV partners and probably won't get quite as much money when they try to go back to the negotiating table the next time. I mean, you've had CBS and NBC sitting there looking at each other like, they gave me this shit for, a prime TV spot. What is this? So I don't know. It's they got to do better with the scheduling, I think.
after letting Fox take whatever they want, and then it's okay. Now here you go. Here are you only get side dishes and sometimes leftovers.
Yeah. I mean, there were some games in prime time and 3:30 that you're just kind of scratching your head like, holy cow, this is what makes the cut as one of the best games of the week. I don't get it. And what hurts them is Nebraska hasn't been any good at all. I mean, that's a name that you put on the marquee and usually, get some curiosity viewers out of that. But, it's been a train wreck for a quarter of a century. So that hurts. And USC wasn't any good last year. So that hurt as well.
Well, when Michigan goes into Memorial Stadium in Lincoln, Nebraska, week 4 of the season, and the Huskers put it on them, then Nebraska is back.
They're back. Go Big Red.
Well, they're going to get to be able to throw decent games on TV and get their way when the Big Ten establishes these 4 playoff spots. Then they're not going to care what everybody's records are. They got 4 spots in the playoffs automatically, and then they can start scheduling tougher games for everyone.
Well, and there's consideration about in terms of these playoff spots, bringing in television ratings as well as making that something that they consider. So if that, no, Mark, listen, if that is part of the stated evaluation rather than just the standard, this is the way we're going to do it in the past, then you're going to want to have good games on. You're going to want to put good games on there. And I see you both shaking your head, and I agree. But as I've had pointed out to me in 2014, with Ohio State being the number 4 seed, if TCU or Baylor was instead Notre Dame, is Ohio State getting in over that name?
Probably not. Probably not. Yeah, it definitely helped. The Wisconsin game certainly catapulted them, but the name value of Ohio State also kind of carried a lot of that weight as well.
Well, if there is a television ratings component that is introduced into the college football playoff selection, I think we've moved closer and closer to WWE status.
Well,
novelty act.
And you already kind of have an effect of that with basketball because, one, the top team play the good mid-majors. So, and then, it's a thing where it perpetuates itself. Ohio State plays 20 Big Ten games, and they're all in the top 100 of the computer rankings. Ohio State's computer ranking is artificially high because of that. And, insert name of Indiana State 2 years ago got riffed, and whatever mid-major this past year didn't make it. But, McNeese State, if they hadn't won their conference championship, probably wasn't going to get in. So it's not right. I think if you, just in terms of basketball, if you win 28 games but don't necessarily win your conference tournament championship, you should be in the NCAA tournament. I mean, give or take. I mean, I have a pretty strong – now if you get back down to like 24 wins, I'd say no. But, you've just demonstrated over week after week after week after week. You've beaten the teams on your schedule. And I think the same is going to hold true, with football. This past year we saw – some non-entities made it, Indiana, SMU, Arizona State. Would anybody in their right mind have thought that any of those teams were playoff teams, let alone all in the same year? That's just nuts. So I kind of prefer it that the best 12 or 14 or whatever make it, as opposed to some artificial thing that takes off the field stuff into account. But I don't know. Just fix the seating and do it right. That's Tony knows that's one of my favorite things. Do it right.
It's so simple. Just do it right.
Do it right.
More people should do that.
Yeah. If we all lived by that, what a wonderful world we'd have. Just do it right.
Well, I'm going to take my latest shot at doing it right and putting together some type of a playoff formula, but I don't think any of this can be done right unless the schedule's addressed, because that's the component that has the biggest impact on the results on the season is the schedule. So until you fix the schedule, then you can mess around with seedings and all sorts of things, and it's not going to be done right.
I think the problem with that is SEC only wants to play 8 conference games, and a lot of their teams, like South Carolina plays Clemson, Florida plays Florida State. There are natural rivalries that a lot of these teams play. Georgia plays Georgia Tech. So they have a built-in 9th major conference opponent. A lot of those teams do, or at least a few of them. And then for those 3 in particular to then go on and play, a contracted game, either a one-off or a home and home, now you're up to 10, but 10 puts them on par with the Big Ten. So, I see both sides of it. Honestly, I don't worry too much about it because I think that the quality is kind of borne out, and you'll get the best 10, 12 pretty easily, I think. I don't think there was a lot of discussion or dispute the way that it all came down. Alabama name value, Miami name value, they were left out, but they weren't one of the best 10 or 12 teams. So I think that's just the way it went for them.
They didn't have one of the 10 or 12 best records. We don't know if they were one of the 10 or 12 best teams. So you got your faction of people that want the teams that earn it, which means record. And then you got your people over here that want to select by the eye test, I guess, the best teams. I'm going to try to merge those two things.
It's difficult.
It is. It absolutely is. I am by no way advocating leaving out the Indianas of the world because they played a crappy schedule and that they had largely nothing to do with. Of course, it was handed to them by the Big Ten, but they also played 3 high school teams.
Yeah.
11-1, put them in the playoff. They earned it. I'm
caught
okay
them on a
with
year
that.
when they didn't play a major conference. Like they've played Virginia and some other teams outside the conference in the past. It just caught them on a year where they didn't have that, which, for whatever that was worth, to beat a 4-8 or 5-7 Virginia team or whatever they ended up. But, I see all sides of it. It's comparing apples to oranges. And I think that's where you kind of have to look at. I know that Doug Maurice went, and a guy who covered Ohio State for a while now as a podcast. I think he went to one of the mock selection things, and he said it's so much more involved than, who you played and what your record is. They look at, how good your offense was compared to other contending teams. They look at how good your defense was. And he said they have this whole computer thing spread up there. And he said, as you were looking at this on the thing, it could have been Ohio State, but it could have been another team. There were a lot of green boxes for this team to explain why they're in the position they're in. And it's more than just what you think they're looking at. So I think that the committee takes a little deeper view of each team's resume than just beyond computer ranking, record, those type of things. And, I'm for whatever makes the most sense. It just, it's not the NFL where everybody played 16 other NFL teams or what is it, 17 now. And your record is your record is your record. So,